So we're going to take off from North Carolina, across the Atlantic into Europe, across the Eurasian landmass, over the Middle East and Iran, and across Afghanistan into our beautiful Bharat, India, into Vrindavan, and we're going to go across to Sriman Mahamantra Prabhu, who's going to continue his beautiful Pushpanjali. Prabhu is actually Canadian, born in one part of the world I love very much, which is British Columbia. He met the devotees in 1980. And in 1981, he took Harinam, and 82 took Diksha from Satsat Swarup Maharaj. He met Srila Gurudev nice and early before the big Western influx came in the 90s. He met Srila Gurudev in 1988, and he took Harinam and Diksha from Gurudev in 2003. A very warm re-welcome for his second installment of his Pushpanjali to Sriman Mahamantra Das. Dandavats Prabhu. Welcome from over to Braj. Haribol.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Can't see you though.
Okay. So what do I do again? Oh, okay.
Are you on your phone or laptop?
I think, okay, there we are.
Good. You've got that kind of halo, very bright light going on again, which you might need to adjust.
Well, I just have to, okay. So can I turn this light on? This light. Can you turn, yeah. Become a little, then there's another light.
That's good, that's better. We can see you. As long as we have some intimacy with you, that's fine. Beautiful. Lovely to see your happy face, Prabhu. Dandavats.
Yeah, I'm actually
a speaker with a health issue, so we have a little bit more time. So I'm going to give you 40 minutes to expand on your beautiful Pushpanjali for Srila Gurudev.
Okay.
And I'll give you a 5-minute warning when we're 5 minutes away from the end.
If I run out before the time, then we can have some dialogue.
Yeah, yes, great. Sir. Play it by ear,
okay.
No problem.
Okay.
There's no obligation to do 40 if you want to finish at 30, 20, no problem.
Okay.
It's a natural process.
Yeah. Vande Guru Padatwandam Bhakta Vrinda Samanvitam Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Mande Nityananda Shahoditam Shri Nandanandanam Bande Radhika Charanadvayam Gopi Jana Samayuktam Vrindavana Manoharam. They just turned on the light again. I'm actually in a guest house up in Nepal. Everybody's getting kicked out of India who was on a tourist visa. So I'm one of those persons. But anyways, so before speaking, I'd like to offer millions of Pushpanjali, Dandavat, Pranams to our lotus feet. Gurudev, Om Vishnu Pada, Stotar, Shri Srimad, and also our Rupaneva Guru Varga, and all my Shiksha and Diksha gurus. So, last time, I guess we were speaking about Gurudev's chastisement. So, why does Gurudev have to chastise? Like one time when Prabhupada was chastising one of his disciples, he said, please forgive me, but this is the duty of the Guru. Actually, no one else can chastise us, but the benefit is very, very limited, and sometimes it's very hard to accept. But when Gurudev chastises, it's full blessing, full mercy, and it's absolutely required, because like one great soul started his class one day and he said, at every moment we are deviating. At every moment. Think about that. So if we're not chastised, then how can we get back on the right track? Because we're constantly falling off the track. So Gurudev comes and he gives us this opportunity. You know, we have this human form of life. We spend the first 20 years or whatever looking for something. We don't know what arrangement, some causeless mercy. We connect with an authentic Param Bhagavat, Gaudiya Vaishnav, representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Yuga avatar for this Kali Yuga. So who can calculate our good fortune? It's unestimable. It's beyond imagination. It's beyond belief. How fortunate we are to come into this position of having connection with someone of the stature and transcendental position of our Gurudev. So, but now that we've met him by the transcendental arrangement of the Lord. Krishna is arranging everything. But now, and Gurudev already situated in complete transcendence, in complete knowledge, complete bliss. And he's come to give us the same thing. But why is it that we're not taking it? Why is it that we're not experiencing that complete knowledge at every moment and that complete? So if we can understand what is the mood and mission of our Gurudev, then we'll never have to take birth again in this material world, just like that verse in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam ebam yoveti tattvata. If we understand Krishna activities, then we never have to take birth. Krishna is telling us that. But Gurudev is fully in the same position. He's completely transcendental. So if we can understand who is our Gurudev, then we're in the same position. So who can say they've really understood their Gurudev? Who can say that they've actually seen their Gurudev? Like one V.S. Puja, I think it was V.S. Puja, it was an article in the Harmonist magazine that came out, I still remember it. And Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, Param Gurudev, his article was there. And in the article, he started out by saying, I never saw my Gurudev. I never understood my Gurudev. How amazing is that? You know, we worship Param Gurudev as being fully realized Mahabhagavat, Bhavuk, Rasik Vaishnav, but he's telling that he never saw his Gurudev. So it's not a simple thing to understand. And so we have to, Gurudev always encouraging us to do bhajan, go deeper, try to meditate, try to digest this philosophy and go deeper. See, we can calculate the height of the mountain, but can we understand the depth? So bhakti is not a simple thing, because if we understand bhakti, if we actually can fathom what is pure bhakti, then we don't have any more problem. We don't have any more birth and death. And all we can do is try to help others. So this is the mood of Gurudev. This is the mood of any pure devotee. He just wants to, he has unlimited compassion for the fallen conditioned souls of this world. And
Prabhu, we can't hear you for some reason. I'm going to turn my video off to save bandwidth. Maybe, Achudana, if you turn your video off, please. Let's see if we can help Mahamantra. Mahamantra, you're on you're on mute for some reason.
Okay, because I lost connection. Is it coming in now?
You're good. You're good. Yeah, yeah. We've turned our video off to give you extra bandwidth. You carry on. Thank you.
So Bhakti Pragan. So it's not an easy thing to understand who is Gurudev. Guru Tattva has many aspects to it. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes in one place, he says, I am lower than a worm in stool. So if a Mahabhagavat is speaking like that, it means he's actually feeling like this. And he's also giving us instruction about how we should also live our life. And basically, most people are, receiving Gurudev's mercy, but they joy in this world. So, everyone benefits from Gurudev's mercy. But what does Gurudev really want? What is the most pleasing thing? So just like we have to look at the examples of all the great acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Haridas Thakur. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to visit Haridas Thakur, he one day in his beautiful garden there in Jagannath Puri, just outside the temple of Jagannath, he said, Haridas, how are you? And Haridas said, well, I'm okay, but my mind is disturbed. And finally, in the course of the discussion, Haridas said that I have this premonition, I have this feeling that you will soon leave this world. And I can't bear that thought. I can't bear the thought of you leaving this world and leaving me behind alone without you. So I'd like to go first. I want to go first. And Mahaprabhu, he said, well, that's maybe well and good for you, but what about me? Then I have to live in this world without you. So much love and affection between the Shishya and the Guru. So the next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with many of his associates, and they started this wonderful kirtan. And Haridas, fixated his eyes, his glance on the lotus face of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like two bumblebees. And in the midst of this uproarious kirtan, with all these Nityasthita parikars of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he left this world, fulfilling his own desire. See? Because he couldn't bear the thought of living without Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in a similar way, how can we, if we're actually understanding our Gurudev and his mood and what he wants for us, how can we bear to live without him? It's something to contemplate anyway. We go on living our life as if it is very important, All my activities are very important. But we're not thinking of how Gurudev would want me to be living. Not all the time, some of the time, see. But a pure devotee or a Mahabhagavat is always thinking, what does Gurudev want me to do now? Second by second by second. He's never thinking independently from the pleasure of his Gurudev. You know, I'm as guilty as anyone, more. So, but we're trying to understand what is the most pleasing thing to Gurudev. And most of the time, I remember when I first joined, like 40 years ago, and the devotees, I might ask a question, or I might have just speaking from my mind. And the devotees would say, oh, Prabhu, you're on the chariot of the mind. Manoratena. You're riding on the chariot of the mind. And it was like an embarrassing thing, you know, to admit, oh yes, that's I'm just riding along on the chariot of my mind. And where's it taking me? It's taking me to another 10 million births. And we've just come from that state also. So, you know, this is our chance. Like, this is our chance, this life, this moment, this is all we really have. It's all we really have. So we're trying to offer that to Gurudev. And Gurudev's seeing our struggle. He's seeing our limitations. He's seeing our obstacles. But, you know, he's basically looking for our desire. And therefore, Gurudev always talking about greed. Like, we have to increase our lolium, our transcendental desire, our transcendental greed for achieving Krishna Prem, Radha Prem. What Gurudev came to give, no, it's not just Krishna Prem, also Radha Prem. And these higher topics are actually what can lift us way, way beyond the chariot of the mind. We live for Harikatha, like the Chakora bird. We want to hear more. We only want to hear that topic, because that topic will completely satisfy us. And at a certain point, nothing else will. So, but we have to qualify ourselves. See? Gurudev was on that platform. He was speaking on the highest tattva. He was sitting in Mathura in Keshaviji Gaudiya Mat, and there's maybe 500 devotees crammed in there. I remember it was very, very full. I've never seen it so full. And I think this is around 2003. And Gurudev is saying, now I'm going to tell you something. And I hesitate to speak, because this is a very high thing, he said. And he said, if I don't speak, then who will? There is no one else that's speaking these things and that's qualified to say these things. And then he said, there may only be 2 or 3 of you who can understand what I'm about to say. I don't remember what he said. You see, I'm not one of those 2 or 3, definitely. But I remember the impact it had on me. And it made me want more, you see. Like, you know, we see the example of our acharyas, like Raghunath Das Goswami. So Gurudev, you know, he said, you know, we have to become like Raghunath Das Goswami. But then another time he said, you are at the level where, you know, just hearing the name of Raghunath Das Goswami. So you see, we're somewhere between those two, hearing the name and becoming like Raghunath Das Goswami. So we have to keep going somehow or other, no matter what our state is, what our position is, how fallen we are. We have to keep being inspired and keep going. But without correction, what chance have we got? So again, Gurudev's chastisement is the mercy that we need. And without the personal presence of Gurudev, how can we get his chastisement? Is it possible? Gurudev used to say, you need a living guru to pull your ear. See? It's not enough. You come from ISKCON. Prabhupada's gone now for 20 years. Now I've come. Will you accept the chastisement? See? Do you want the chastisement? So it's required. It's not an option. It's not an optional thing. It's absolute necessity. So, because everyone is assuming that we're okay. We're comparing ourselves with other conditioned souls in this world. And we're thinking, I'm doing better than that guy, so maybe I'm not doing so bad. But that's the mundane world, Prabhu. That's the mundane world. If we compare ourselves with the transcendental world, we're not doing so good. See? So we have to cry out. It's only gurus, but Shiksha Guru can become most prominent or even more prominent than Diksha Guru. So when I was in Badger, I think it was 2009, I was out in the grass next to the house there. And there was maybe 3 or 4 devotees, we were talking. And suddenly Gurudev came out of his room and he was just standing right next to us. It's 2009. And one devotee, without any hesitation, he just asked this question, Gurudev, it seems like you're not going to be with us much longer. So where are we to go for guidance? Where can we go for guidance after you disappear? If you're no longer with us. And Gurudev did not hesitate. I mean, not even 2 seconds later, he said, you go to any Mahabhagavat. He may be in our Sangha and he may not. But you go to any Mahabhagavat and take his guidance. And the way he said you go to any Mahabhagavat, it seemed like there was a Mahabhagavat on every corner. But of course, we know they're not that easily found in this world. But in Gurudev's mind, in Gurudev's Sangha, they're everywhere. So I took that instruction to heart. And, it's like, different devotees are attracted in different areas. But we have to find Gurudev's mercy, And Gurudev isn't just one personality. Even though we're very much attached to our personality of our Srila Gurudeva, Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaja, of course. And there's some that are maybe more than others. But Gurudev is a transcendental phenomenon. And he can appear in different forms, no doubt. This is the teaching. This is the reality. So, if our relationship with Gurudev is fixed up, then all our relationships become spiritual. See, if we have a very intimate and wonderful connection with our Gurudev, and then we can also have wonderful and transcendental relationships with almost anybody. See, but in this world, all our relationships are temporary. Even relationships with devotees, sometimes we might think that this is all I've got, but these relationships may not be on the eternal platform. So in this world, relationships are temporary, and they're only to remind us of our eternal relationship with Gurudev. Gurudev can give us what we want, what we need, what we require. So that's why Gurudev is the only one that can chastise us. He's the only one that can save us. But we have to work together to try to come closer to Gurudev. So entrance to the spiritual world is only available through the mercy of Gurudev. It doesn't come in any other way. So these are just some topics that came to my mind, and I also want to just mention that yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just had an observation. You said you wanted to exchange some thoughts. I was thinking of this word chastisement, and I was thinking words are very interesting because they're kind of they're vortexes into experience and into deeper realization if we meditate on their meaning, but not through the brain so much, but through the heart. And I was thinking chastisement is linked etymologically to the word chastity. And chastity means to be monogamous, to be faithful to one, which means to be one-pointed, which is all about our line of Rupa Nuga, to be one-pointed, anugat to Rupa Goswami, anugat to Gurudev, anugat to Rupa Goswami, to Rupa Mandri, anugat to Radha, and thus that way express our love for Krishna through that line. And I was thinking how what you were saying was inspiring me to think of when you said every moment, because sometimes if you dwell on the negative, it can kind of, I've got a question for you on the negative in a second, but sometimes when you dwell on the negative, you think, oh, it's hopeless. But actually, what you're telling me is that chastisement is every moment I can be deviating. Well, what am I deviating from? I'm deviating from my one-pointedness. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, that's that one-pointedness is it's only available if we get very, very serious. I've been seeing these 1-minute clips, video clips that have been coming out on online, with Gurudev's classes every day. I'm not sure who's sending those out, but there's some really, really nice clips of Gurudev speaking, and and he's talking about this single point, one-pointedness and everything, and what can I say? It's beyond me. It's beyond me. But yeah. So I don't know what else I can say about that. But it's definitely. I guess it comes with chastity. It comes with chastisement. It comes from surrender. It comes from and like unlimited perseverance, that we just have to keep coming back. It's just like chanting our mantras. It's the same mantra, but we're chanting it like now 40 years. It's the same mantra. So we have to be going deeper. You see, if we stay on the same point, forever. Gradually the water wears away the rock, right? So it's going to take time. It's going to take some time, and we don't have much patience because it's Kali Yuga. And our minds are always disturbed. But the mantra is meant to focus us. That's our hope. The holy name, the Mahamantra. So,
Prabhu, we have a little contribution from Sriman Chitananda Das. He has a story regarding chastisement in relation to Srila Prabhupada. So,
am I on?
Love to hear from you. Go on, Prabhu.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Very good.
Oh, good. Now, Prabhupada said
yes,
a very interesting thing. Said, I was sitting, it's the first time we heard this. I was sitting in a gathering listening to Bhaktisiddhanta, my Guru Maharaj, and another godbrother sitting next to me came over and started to speak to me to the side. And I leaned over to him to listen. And Bhaktisiddhanta said to me, why you're listening to him? You're here to hear me. And whoop, they stopped. And then Prabhupada said this very interesting thing. He said, so we enjoyed that chastisement. We enjoyed that chastisement. That was very, very, very instructive.
but that reminds me of when I was getting Diksha from Gurudev in Badger. There was about 10 or 15 of us in the room, and Gurudev was, of course, I already knew the mantras because I got them from, Srila Satsarup Maharaj in ISKCON. But then he was handing the paper over to another devotee to give him the mantras for the first time. And I was sitting in between them. So I was just reaching to Gurudev to pass it to this other devotee. And Gurudev pulled that paper back from my eager hands, and he glared at me like he was going to kill me, because, you're interfering with, me and my disciple. Who do you think you are? That was, he didn't use any words. But I was shattered. I was like, he put me in my place, basically. So, yeah, the chastising thing is, I think everybody has many stories. I remember one night we started talking about chastisements of Gurudev, and it went on for hours. There was 3 or 4 devotees, but one devotee told the story of how Gurudev, he said something that Gurudev didn't like, and he took his danda and he wound up like this, and it was just like, and he stopped like 1 inch from the devotee's head. Without the devotee thought he was gonna, but sometimes I think he didn't stop. So it just depended on the situation.
Prabhu, can I ask you a question regarding chastisement, please?
Okay. Or actually, you're asking. Okay.
Sorry?
You can ask it. Okay.
Yeah, no, we want to continue your flow of sharing. How do you? Okay, so I've experienced chastisement from Srila Gurudev directly, and I acknowledge the power of that. And there's no chastisement in the mundane sense. It's actually extremely energizing. But often in Krishna conscious, we do in our language dwell on, oh, we need chastisement, we need correction, oh, we're so bad, oh, we're nothing, we're this, we're that, we're the other. How do you ensure that doesn't become the property of because the false ego can do 2 things to us. It can either tell us we're great, we're like God, or we're terrible, it's kind of like bipolar, what the false ego does. So how do you ensure that the kind of the correctional side of Krishna consciousness doesn't play into the false ego's obsession with being so bad that you end up kind of hopeless and almost indolent and helpless?
Well, you don't relate to your false ego. We have to relate to, in Krishna consciousness, we're trying to relate to our real ego. So if we remember the moods of our acharyas, like when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said he's like lower than the worm and stool, that's not a bad thing. Because that's actually, and when Haridas Thakur, said he was going to leave this world, and then Mahaprabhu said, but somebody said, but how can you leave? Everyone's depending on you. You're, such a great soul. He said, what's the difference if an insect leaves? That's just the reality. That's just the reality, and like you say, we're bewildered by our false ego. We're bewildered by our false ego, and it can go either way. It can go, thinking, like you said, thinking you're greater than you are, or thinking that you're less than you are. But the real secret, I think that one of the big secrets of spiritual life is to actually realize your position.
Okay. So it's all about It's all about re-relating to yourself as an eternal spirit soul, and not putting a value judgment on your lowliness is actually irrelevant. What you're saying.
Yeah, but it's like we have to realize most people are thinking they're more advanced than they are, right? And that can get you into a lot of problems. Like get you into a lot of difficulties. If you're thinking that you're, Madhyama platform when you're actually, then you can do a lot of damage to yourself and others.
Yeah.
So we have to really get an honest assessment of, it sort of goes together, doesn't it? I mean, we're on the spiritual path. So that takes precedent. The material thing is kind of secondary. Like I'm not a public speaker. I'm not, I don't have any ability to do anything. I mean, who am I? It's like, but different people, I guess, yeah, anyway, I have different other ego problems, but everybody's got problems in this world, but we don't focus on those things, which brings me to my next point, the next point that I wanted to bring up. One famous lecture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he delivered in Radhakund in 1932, and I had this up on my wall for a number of years. And he said that there's two things in this talk that he gave. He said, we can, for many days now, he said, we've been speaking about anartha nivritti. He said, but today I want to speak about artha pravritti. So anartha nivritti means, all those things that we want to get rid of in order, that are holding us back. But how do we do that? I mean, how do we get free from those things? By artha pravritti, by understanding the wealth of what we've been given. We've been given a tremendous wealth that is sufficient to carry us to the transcendental world. But we have to utilize it properly. It's a very valuable treasure. So we have to utilize that properly. And if we utilize it improperly, it won't have the same result. We won't make it out. We won't make it out of this material world. So we have to hear very, very attentively to very high-class devotees and really hear, like with full heart and attention, and not just like, once a year. Like Prabhupada wanted us to have morning and evening Bhagavatam classes, and Gurudeva also. We have to do it regularly. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke, Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. So in order to really succeed, we have to apply it like all the time, 24/7. There's no breaks for a real spiritual aspirant. And it's hard to do it. We can't do it on our own. We have to do it in a sangha, in a bhakti sangha. And we have to find those persons who can inspire us to keep going. And we might have to change location. We might have to move to India. Gurudev encouraged us to do that also. So like Prabhupada, also like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they both said, that we've spent a lot of our time cutting jungles of Mayavad and misconception. So Gurudev, he also did that to some degree, but he was also giving the, elixir of immortality, like the bhakti ras, the nectar that we've all been waiting for. He was giving that. But we have to become qualified to give it. Otherwise, like you notice, I'm just talking about Gurudev. I don't really give classes on Krishna Lila, or I can't really speak so much about that because I don't have much realization about that. But I'd love to hear it from someone who has a realization. And I think, that maybe if I spend the rest of this lifetime hearing about Krishna's, dalliances in the groves of Vrindavan from a bona fide source, from an authentic source, then maybe my next life I can talk about it, So, but, that brings to mind Bhakti Jiva Janardhan Goswami Maharaj, who is also very, very close to our Gurudev. Gurudev went to him on many occasions and heard from him. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami gave Jiva Janardhan Maharaj full blessings to speak about the higher topics, to speak about Radharani. And so many others he cautioned. He said, be careful in this regard. But see, that's what Gurudev was saying when he said, there's only 2 or 3 that may understand what I'm going to say. And if I don't say it, who's going to say it? Like these things he heard from Bhakti Jiva Janardhan Goswami, from his Gurudev, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, and from other Rasik Vaishnavas. So we have to be hearing from the proper source, and then we can make advancement, we can get genuine attachment to Krishna, which is what Gurudev was offering us. So we have to focus on our bhajan. If we don't focus on bhajan, what else have we got?
Yeah, Gurudev, we've got a couple of minutes left. I just reminded me of a conversation Gurudev had in when he came to Krishna Balaram temple one year. You were probably there. I think you may have prompted me to mention this before, but he spoke to everybody there. It was a huge congregation, and he basically said to the Prabhupada disciples, "You've served your Prabhupada so much, so many years of seva. Now it's time to do sadhana, to go deeper, to do sadhana." And some of them heard him like, "Oh, he's in unison, he's in tune with Prabhupada, he's my Shiksha Guru." And some of them heard him like, "Oh, he's criticizing Prabhupada." So it was just amazing. The same words fell on different ears and were completely differently interpreted. But it's clear that all of these great acharyas, they're bringing out, it's always the same music, the same melody, but it's sometimes with a different emphasis based on time and circumstance.
Yeah, no, it's true. What was I going to say? Yeah, so it's according to our qualification. We try to do as much as we can, and But if we try to jump beyond our qualification,
Yeah.
then that's when Sahajya and all these deviant sampradayas come into play. And Gurudev warned us. He said, after I leave, he said, many of you will become Sahajis. I heard him speak like this, because he was speaking these high topics, and then all his followers, they're hearing these things and they properly. So the effect will not be there. There'll be a different effect.
Yeah, and sometimes some offenses to other devotees, I've heard. Sometimes we haven't represented our guru very well.
No, that's the problem. That's the problem, and it's and if with Gurudev not here to chastise or to keep us chaste, like you're saying, then it's very different. It's very difficult to reel people back in.
There was one story. There's one story. I won't name any names at all, but there was a person selling one of Gurudev's more higher books, and a Prabhupada disciple, but unknown to the person selling the books. This person was a Prabhupada disciple of many, many years, and he was sort of saying, "Is it wise to be selling this book openly like this?" Of course, Gurudev encouraged it. But the seller, the devotee of Gurudev, said to the Prabhupada disciple, "Oh, maybe you're not ready yet." And this devotee had only met Gurudev a year earlier. It was like, oh, it was really embarrassing, terribly embarrassing. It's like we sometimes don't understand the wealth. You were saying about the art of pravritti. We don't understand the wealth we've been given, but we haven't earned the wealth. We've been given it. It's bestowed to us, but it's not ours.
Yeah.
We shouldn't pretend that we have realization.
I mean, it can be in an innocent way also. It's not always, innocently, like in Prabhupada, disciples, while he was on the planet, and they would come to him and say, well, your devotee said this like that. And Prabhupada, he backed up his devotees, and he said, well, they're in the shower. They're still,
right.
They're in the shower. So they're getting purified, but it'll take some. Making offense is maybe a little more difficult than what some of us think. It's not that. It's not just a small thing. So anyway, the Vaishnavas are very, very merciful,
But we will begin to lose communication again, and
we should go on. We should try to be.
Prabhu, the time's almost up, and we're beginning to lose bandwidth. I really appreciate you coming on a second time. It's beautiful sharing, and I think you're pointing us in certain directions is very healthy for our spiritual life. I hope you get back. Are you getting back into India soon? Are you going back into Vrindavan, or do you have to stay some time in Nepal?
Yeah, I had to stay outside for 30 days and then get another 30-day visa.
Oh, then you go back
to India.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, I hope I'm just going back for a month and then I'll come back.
Well, we have another 7 of these Gurudev memories to go. This is the 57th. I hope you can join us and listen to some of our final speakers before the end of the centennial year. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got our Tirubhav festival on the 27th, 8th, and 9th. Got a host of really nice speakers speaking about, specifically focusing on Gurudev's Vani, different aspects of his Vani. Oh, and yeah, I was going to announce something else actually, but that might be a bit premature. So thank you so much, Mahamantra Prabhu, originally from Canada, living in Vrindavan, sojourning in Nepal. Haribol, Dandavat Pranams.